He built his dream on quiet acres of land, a ranch with a lake that was more than water, it was history. But when his neighbor saw his success, she didn't see hard work. She saw a threat. She called the cops, spun lies, and tried to strip him of what he owned. But what happened next shocked everyone, because when she tried to take what wasn't hers, he turned the tables in a way no one expected. This isn't just a story about property. It's about power, prejudice, and what happens when justice comes from the most unexpected place. Marcus Johnson loved the land. His family had always dreamed of wide open spaces, and after years of saving, working, and sacrificing, he finally bought his ranch. The centerpiece was a quiet lake, tucked behind rolling fields and clusters of trees. For Marcus, it wasn't just land. It was freedom, a chance to raise his kids in peace, away from the noise of the city. The ranch was his sanctuary. Early mornings spent fishing at the lake, evenings watching the sun dip behind the horizon. Every moment was a reminder that his work had been worth it. But across the property line lived someone who saw things differently. Linda, a longtime HOA member with a reputation for controlling every inch of the neighborhood, had always looked at Marcus with suspicion. To her, he was an outsider. His ownership of the lake seemed like a mistake in the natural order she believed she was entitled to enforce. It started small. Side comments, cold stares, then whispers at HOA meetings about who really belonged here. But when Marcus quietly listed his ranch lake for sale, a legal move, part of his right as the property owner, Linda exploded. To her, it wasn't possible that a black man could control something as valuable as the lake. And instead of talking, instead of understanding, she made a call to the police, accusing him of fraud. What Marcus didn't know that day was that her call would ignite a firestorm. But he also didn't know that he was about to turn her own arrogance into her downfall. The first time the police showed up, Marcus thought it was a mistake. They pulled into his driveway, lights flashing, questioning why he was advertising property that didn't belong to him. He was stunned. The papers were right there in his office, legal deeds, survey maps, every signature in order. He explained calmly, presenting the documents, but the looks in their eyes said it all. They had arrived already believing her story. The officers left after reviewing the documents, but not before leaving him with a warning tone, as if he had invited suspicion upon himself simply by daring to own what he did. For days, Linda didn't let up. She posted on neighborhood boards, spreading rumors that Marcus was a scammer. She told people he was illegally profiting off land he didn't own. At HOA meetings, her voice rose above the rest, demanding that the lake be protected. And each time, Marcus felt the eyes of neighbors lingering, doubting, questioning. But Marcus wasn't the kind of man to bow under pressure. He went deeper into the records, pulling every piece of legal proof he could find. His attorney reassured him. He owned every inch of the ranch, lake included. Then came the moment that changed everything. Marcus learned from the county office that Linda's property, though she lorded over it like a queen, was tangled in debts. One of her adjacent lots, a narrow but crucial strip of land, was quietly up for sale. And that strip just happened to provide her only access to the lake she always claimed was hers to protect. Marcus didn't hesitate. He moved fast, buying the lot outright. Legally, cleanly, decisively. It was a turning point, because suddenly the power dynamic shifted. Linda, who once claimed authority over him, found herself blocked. Literally, her path to the lake was now his gate to control. The same neighbor who tried to weaponize prejudice had handed him the leverage to prove, once and for all, that ownership isn't determined by suspicion or bias. It's written in law and earned in sweat. The day Linda realized what had happened was explosive. She stormed across the property line, shouting, demanding answers. Her voice carried the same venom it always had, but this time, Marcus didn't flinch. Behind him stood the surveyors and county officials, maps in hand, ready to explain what the paperwork already proved. The strip of land was his now. The lake, his to sell, use, or keep. Her accusations, baseless. Her control, gone. The officers who once came to question him now came only to ensure the peace, as the confrontation escalated. Neighbors gathered, watching the spectacle unfold. For years, many had silently witnessed her behavior, but today they saw the consequences of arrogance meet the weight of truth. Linda's face twisted with fury as she realized the reality. The very man she tried to strip of dignity now held the deed to her access. The lake she once claimed was too important to trust to him was now permanently beyond her reach, unless he allowed it. Marcus didn't gloat. He didn't raise his voice. He simply stood firm, papers in hand, calm as the storm raged around him, because this moment wasn't about revenge. It was about reclaiming dignity from someone who had tried to take it away. And in that silence, in that stillness, the message was clear. Prejudice may shout, accuse, and intimidate, but it cannot erase ownership. It cannot rewrite truth, and it cannot break a man who knows his worth. In the weeks that followed, the story spread through the neighborhood. Some whispered, some laughed, some quietly admitted they had believed Linda's lies. But none could deny the outcome. Marcus had not only defended his rights, he had flipped the narrative entirely. What began as an attempt to humiliate him became a lesson in humility for her. The lake remained his, and with the adjacent lot secured, no one could challenge his authority again. But Marcus knew it wasn't just about property. It was about the deeper truth of what had happened. How quickly suspicion had turned into police at his door. How easily neighbors believed lies over evidence because of the man who held the deed. For his children, it was a hard lesson too soon, that even in places meant for peace, prejudice lurks. But it was also a reminder of resilience, that dignity can be defended, and that standing firm matters. And as Marcus walked his land, hearing the quiet ripple of the lake, he understood something else. Justice doesn't always come from the system. Sometimes, it comes from refusing to be broken, from turning injustice into opportunity. This story is not just about a man and his ranch. It's about how easily prejudice can poison communities, and how courage can break it. So I'll leave you with this. When lies are louder than truth, will you stay silent, or will you stand with the ones fighting to be heard? If this story spoke to you, don't just watch, be part of the change. Like, share, comment your thoughts, and subscribe, because stories like Marcus's deserve to be heard, and together, we make sure they are never forgotten.